All right, so we have another installment of our organizational rhetorical devices. Today we're looking at parallelism and chiasmus. Yes. Okay, so moving on here. Now, parallelism, I'm sure this is a bit of a review for you all, but it basically uses the same general structure for multiple parts of a sentence. So the same grammatical structure, whether it be, say, infinitive, verb, or, preposition, verb, preposition, whatever it is, right? It repeats that structure throughout whatever it is that you're writing. Okay? What this does for you, parallelism, is that it gives your writing a sense of overall cohesion, balance, and a sense of intention, meaning you know what you're doing when you're writing, therefore you should pay better attention because you're a good writer. It is much easier to read something that is written using parallelism because you can understand the flow of the ideas as you are reading. So you want to make sure that you can use parallel structure and parallelism when you are writing. It's probably most commonly seen when you're writing items in a list in one of the more basic forms of parallelism. When you're writing items in a list, you want to make them all the same grammatical structure. Are we ready for some examples?
Yes.
Yes? No, I have not. Moving on to slide number 2 now. So, here's a quote from Winston Churchill, and you'll notice that parallelism, this is a little more advanced use of the parallelism. The inherent vice of capitalism is the unequal sharing of blessing. The inherent virtue of socialism is the equal sharing of miseries.
I don't even know what that means. Wow, that's inherent, and then a V word, and then socialism.
The vice. What is a vice?
Vice versa.
No. It's something bad. Like a vice would be something bad that you do.
Why would it be vice versa?
Okay? It's a second in command. Okay? Anyway, vice is the opposite of virtue in this case, right? So, they say that the bad thing about capitalism is that there's an unequal sharing. What does that mean?
Not equal.
Not everybody gets the same, so there's an unequal sharing of blessings, right? So the wealth is distributed unequally among people, yes? And the inherent virtue is a good thing, right? Virtuous person is someone who's has very high morals, yeah? Okay. And so the inherent virtue of socialism is the equal sharing of misery. So what does that mean? Everyone shares the misery the same. Right? Yes?
Yes.
But notice, the parallelism here is that we have noun and then a prepositional phrase. The inherent vice, that's a noun, prepositional phrase of capitalism, even goes on. Verb, and then, what's this part? Anybody? The object, right?
Wait, what?
Okay.
Noun, prepositional phrase, start with noun.
Right? So we have the inherent vice. Okay. Notice we have a number of things going on here. right? We have antithesis, right? Vice and virtue, unequal and equal, antithesis, yeah? Plus we have parallelism, yes? Okay? We have a lot of stuff going on in this passage here. Yes?
Do you have another vocab list?
I do, probably. And you could also print it off of Schooloo. Yes, Jake?
Okay.
Wasn't Winston Churchill, like, didn't he have legendary wit?
Yeah.
Possibly.
Come back here.
Possibly. I don't know enough about Winston Churchill to comment on that. So, moving on now to chiasmus. Very closely related to parallelism. In fact, it's a special form of parallelism that actually flips the original form around. Okay? And I'll show you what I mean by that in a little bit. Stylistically, is a bit more ornate than parallelism. Okay? It's a little bit harder to do and harder to pull off than parallelism. It can actually lend extra impact to your statement because someone is expecting parallelism and suddenly you hit them with chiasmus and it triggers, oh, something is different here, draws their attention to it. Okay? Yeah. Well, it helps if you're not trying to do 5 other things at the same time. Parallelism, and this is chiasmus now.
I know, but I think it's spelled
Parallelism. Parallelism.
Second bullet.
Oh, you're absolutely right. It is spelled wrong. I apologize for that.
I was like, there's parallelism?
Let me fix that right away here.
Oh.
No, Jay. Stop thinking about it. That's gonna make me not want to watch Frozen.
There you go. Beauty. Fixed.
Yeah.
Let it go.
And land that script.
Bless you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Moving on to the example now. All right. So, what's that?
Can you go back really quick?
May I go back, please?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So here's an example. If something is parallel, it might look like this. Jenny?
Yes.
We're quite a bit farther than that. He smiled happily and laughed joyfully. Verb, adverb, and a verb adverb. Parallelism. Yes?
Yeah.
Got it? Now, for chiasmus, we might do something like this.
Whoa.
He smiled happily and joyfully laughed. We have flipped around, right? We've flipped around. It is kind of like that. You could say 2 times 5 and 2 times 5. Or you could say 2 times 5, 5 times 2.
Or you can say why? Why did you say?
Because one has a different impact than the other one.
No, we don't.
If you look at it visually, right? You have a 2 times 5, 2 times 5, okay? Or you have 2 times 5, 5 times 2. Suddenly the 5's together bordered by the 2's. Visually, that might be more appealing than 2 times 5, 2 times 5. Right? So with chiasmus, yeah. So, he smiled happily, verb, adverb, right? You get that part. You don't understand why it's... So, if you wanted, say, to emphasize the fact that he joyfully laughed, you might use chiasmus. Instead of someone's expecting he smiled happily and laughed joyfully, right?
Why do you keep doing that?
I don't know.
You might expect the person to then
I don't know.
have it the same way, right? This is probably not the best example of a good use of chiasmus, but it's a very simple example to show you the difference between parallelism and chiasmus. Does that help? Okay. All right. Moving on to the question I'm sure everyone has on their minds right now.
Of course.
What's that? Which one should we use? Right? When do we use parallelism? When do we use chiasmus? Okay?
Which one do we use?
Well, you know what? There's no rule for which one to use.
Like, it's not like
Sometimes one works well, sometimes the other works well, and it's pretty much up to the writer to decide which one will work well for the type of writing or the impact that you want to have. So therefore, you should try them both to see which sounds more natural to your ear as you are reading it. Well, too much excitement is a good thing.
Didn't even know.
There really is.
Good. Now, not yet? Okay.
Nicole never bothered me anyway. Why do you think he's busy?
All right. And we have some extra tips. Hopefully this will help you to determine which one to use when you want to use it. Okay? First extra tip. If you're trying to keep the flow of your writing going, use parallelism. Okay? If there's sort of a rhythm to it as you're writing, keep going with that, right? That can work. Right? The river of your words are flowing down the, come on, help me out here. Metaphors. How about the water of your words are flowing down the river of your paper? How about that? Okay? And sometimes that's like parallelism, right? A nice smooth river. Yeah? Maybe smooth like the Mississippi. It'll get a lot of, it does a lot of damage, but it's very smooth in doing it, right? It has a lot of impact, but it's very smooth. As opposed to when you want to use chiasmus to upset the flow in a way that draws attention to a particular word or phrase. So let's pretend that the Mississippi is going down and suddenly it turns into Niagara Falls, right? That's chiasmus, right? Suddenly you're expecting this and then there's this huge massive change from what you're expecting, right? That change will draw your attention to that point that caused the change.
Chiasmus to make my writing upsetting.
yes.
Okay. It is often good to use chiasmus in the climax or as part of the support of an argument. Okay, so remember we talked about climax yesterday. Yes? And this can help you when you're writing the climax or as part of the support for your argument. Okay, using chiasmus, because it's unexpected. Right? When things are unexpected,